over time. So chapter 13. Table of contents, repeated games, sequential games, dithering entry, cost and innovation strategies, disadvantages of moving first, behavior game theory. Introduction. Intel managerial problem. Intel and AMD dominate the central processing unit market for personal computing, 95% of total sales. Why have Intel's managers chosen to advertise aggressively while AMD engages with relatively little advertised solution approach? We need to explore dynamic games where players play the game over and over and move either repeatedly or sequentially. Dynamic games could be repeated games or sequential games. Under some conditions, firms may benefit from pursuing dithering entry and cost strategies, or may find disadvantages of moving first. Behavior game theory shows how managers may act based on little rules or psychological factors rather than the rational strategies. Strategies and actions in dynamic games. The static constituent game might be repeated a finite and the pre-specified number of times or repeated indefinitely. In a repeated game, managers need to know the players, the rules, the information that each firm has, and the payoffs or profits. A manager must also distinguish between an action and a strategy. An action is a single move that the player makes at a specified time, such as choosing an output level or a price. A strategy is a battle plan that specifies the full set of actions that the player will make throughout the game. It may involve actions that are conditional on prior actions of those players or on new information available at a given time. And we have the table 13.1 with the airline's prisoner's dilemma game with two actions. Repeats the American United game. The Nash equilibrium solution is played only once if both firms producing high 64 million passengers and making only $4.1 million. Prisoner's dilemma game. Assume the same game is repeated indefinitely. Now firms must consider current and future profits and must distinguish an action from a strategy. Strategies to avoid the prisoner's dilemma outcome. Firms can follow a trigger strategy in which a rival's defection from a collusion outcome triggers a punishment. If United used this strategy, its action in the current period depends on the Americans' observed actions in previous periods. Similarly for American. In the next slide, we present an application of a trigger strategy for the American United game. So we have here an airline's prisoner's dilemma game with two actions. A trigger strategy for an airline repeated game. American chip talks unite that it will produce the 48 collusive or cooperative quantity in the first period, but when this action is will depend. If Unite produced 48 in period T, American will produce 48 in T plus 1. If Unite produced 64 in period T, American will produce 64 in T plus 1 and all subsequent periods. The solution to this game is Nash equilibrium with no prisoner's dilemma. United's best response strategy is to produce 48 in each period. The incremental profit from produce 64 on time does not compensate all future losses. If both firms follow the trigger strategy, the Nash equilibrium is the best outcome. In reality, cooperation may fail because of regulation, bounded rationality, or if a firm cares little about future profits. Another possible tit for tat strategy for repeated prisoners dilemma game sets cooperation in the first round and copies the rival's previous action in each subsequent round. A tit for tat strategy is a punishment strategy weaker than the previous trigger strategy. So a tit for tat may not induce cooperation in the airline repeated game if the extra profit in period T is greater than the loss from the punishment in period T plus 1. However, if the tit for tat strategy is modified to extend the punishment for more than one period, then it may ensure cooperation. The extension of time should be enough to more than compensate the one-time extra profit. Implicit versus explicit collusion. In most modern economies, explicit collusion among firms in an industry is illegal. However, antitrust laws do not strictly prohibit choosing the cooperative or cartel quantity or price as long as no explicit agreement is reached. Implicit collusion. Firms may be able to engage in such implicit collusion or tacit collusion using trigger, tit for tat, or other similar strategies, as long as firms do not explicitly communicate each other. Sequential games in basic concepts. Sequential game, many stages or decision points, and players alternate moves. Extensive form of branch diagram that shows the players, the sequence of moves, the actions players can take at each move. The information that each player has about previous moves and the payoff function over all possible strategy combination. Stackelberg oligopoly, two-stage sequential move oligopoly game. American leader firm chooses its output first. Given American's choice united, the follower picks an output level. The next table shows the corresponding profit, but it doesn't show the sequential nature of this game. So we have here table 13.2, an airline's prisoner's dilemma with 3 ox. So if Americans 96 passengers and 96 United Airlines, so 0 profit for both. 64, 96, 2 million profit, 3.1, and so on. Profit. So credible threats. The Nash equilibrium of the American United static simultaneous game Cournot with 3 option, where both quantities are 96 million passengers and both firms earned 4.1 million. The sub-game perfect Nash equilibrium of the American sequential game Stackelberg is 948. American earns 4.6 million, but United only 2.3 million. Why the simultaneous sequential games have different solutions? Because of credible threat and first mover advantage. For a firm's announced strategy to be a credible threat, rivals must believe that the firm's strategy is rational. We have another example. Cost and innovation strategies. Learning by doing, the more cumulative output a firm has produced, the lower its marginal cost. So it's its workers and managers earn by doing in the presence of earning by doing. The first firm in a market may want to produce more than the quantity that makes its short run profit, so that its marginal cost is lower than that of the late entering rival. Raising rivals' costs. A firm may benefit from using a strategy that raises its own costs but raises its rival costs by more. Such strategy usually favor the first mover. Strategies for incumbents to raise rivals' costs. Lobby the Gulf for more industry regulations that raise costs as long as the legislation grandfathers in firms' plans. Increase the cost of switching by imposing switching fee to customers that take their business elsewhere, design products that don't work with the rivals.